Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you today, do you believe in yourself? You see, the world will tell you that you're not good enough. People may doubt you. Life may have knocked you down. But I'm here to tell you today, God believes in you. And if God believes in you, why shouldn't you believe in yourself? Maybe you've failed before. Maybe you've made mistakes. But listen to me, those voices don't define you. God has placed something powerful inside of you, and it's time for you to believe in yourself the way He believes in you. God's plan for you, the Bible says in Jeremiah 29:11, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." That means before you were even born, God had a purpose for you. That means you are not an accident. You are not a mistake. You are handcrafted by God for something great. But the question is, do you believe it? The power of self-belief. Let me tell you a story. There was a young boy who struggled in school. His teachers told him he was slow. His classmates made fun of him. They said, "You'll never succeed." But that boy refused to believe the lies. He kept working, kept believing, and one day he changed the world. His name, Albert Einstein. Or take another young man, his coach cut him from the basketball team. People said, "You're not good enough." But he didn't give up. He kept practicing, kept pushing, and became the greatest basketball player of all time. His name, Michael Jordan. What about you? What voices have told you that you're not enough? What lies have made you doubt yourself? It's time to reject those lies and believe in the person God created you to be. Why people stop believing? I know life is tough. Maybe you failed in business. Believe in you. Maybe people have turned their backs on you. Believe in you. Maybe you've been rejected, hurt, or broken. Believe in you. Maybe you feel like you're not smart enough, strong enough, or good enough. Believe in you. Because when you believe in yourself, you step into your destiny. And listen, God has never created a failure. He made you for more. He made you to rise, to succeed, to thrive. But you must believe it, God's Word. Encouragement, God's power inside of you. You are not alone in this journey. God is with you. Philippians 4:13 says, "I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me." You can rise above your past. You can break through every obstacle. You can achieve your dreams, not because of who you are, but because of who God is in you. So today I ask you, are you going to keep believing the lies, or are you going to stand up and say, "I am strong. I am chosen. I am created for greatness. I am a child of God"? Because the moment you start believing in yourself, everything changes. You stop settling for less. You stop listening to the doubters. You step into the life God created for you. Believe in you because God believes in you. Today, if you're ready to believe in yourself, say this with me: "I am more than a conqueror. I am fearfully and wonderfully made. I will not let fear or doubt stop me, because God has a purpose for my life." Have you ever felt like nobody believes in you? Like the world has looked at you, sized you up, and said, "You're not good enough"? Maybe you've shared your dreams with someone only to hear them laugh in your face. Maybe you've tried and failed and people said, "See, I told you so." But I'm here to tell you something today. It doesn't matter what they say, because God believes in you even when others don't. Because, let me tell you a story. There was a young boy who loved to paint. But his teacher looked at his work and said, "You have no talent. You'll never be an artist." His father told him, "Painting won't feed a family. Get a real job." The world didn't believe in him, but he kept painting, he kept working, he kept believing, and today his name is Vincent van Gogh, one of the greatest artists in history. Or take another story, a young man who had a dream of playing basketball. But in high school, his coach cut him from the team. People told him he's just not good enough. but he didn't listen. He believed that something greater was inside of him. He practiced longer than anyone else, trained harder, and pushed past the doubt. That young man became Michael Jordan, the greatest basketball player the world has ever seen. Now let's go deeper. Let's talk about a boy from the Bible. His name was David. David was just a shepherd, just a kid. When the prophet Samuel came to anoint the next king of Israel, David's own father didn't even call him into the house. His father lined up all his other sons, the strong ones, the tall ones, the ones who looked like warriors. But God said, not this one, not this one, not this one. And then Samuel asked, is this all your sons? And Jesse said, well, there's David, but he's just a shepherd boy. But God saw what no one else saw. Because when everyone else overlooked David, God believed in him. And when Goliath stood before Israel mocking them, the soldiers laughed when David stepped forward. His brothers told him to go back home. King Saul told him, you're just a boy. You can't fight this giant. But David wasn't listening to the voices of doubt, because he knew, if God is with me, who can be against me? David picked up a slingshot and 5 smooth stones, and with one shot, he brought down the giant that an entire army was afraid to face. Listen to me. When people say you can't, God says you can. When people say you're too small, too weak, too broken, God says, I have chosen you for something greater. Maybe right now you feel like David. Maybe the world has overlooked you. Maybe people have counted you out. Maybe your own family has doubted you. But I came to tell you today, God sees what they don't see. The world looks at the outside, but God looks at the heart. The world sees your past, but God sees your future. The world sees your mistakes, but God sees your potential. If God could take a shepherd boy and make him a king, what can he do with you? Think about Thomas Edison. When he was in school, his teacher told him he was too dumb to learn anything. Can you imagine that? A teacher, someone who is supposed to encourage, told him he was stupid. But Thomas Edison refused to accept that label. He went on to invent the light bulb and change the entire world. Or take Walt Disney. He was fired from a newspaper because his boss said, you have no imagination. But Disney didn't give up. He believed in himself even when others didn't. And today his name is one of the most recognized in the world. I wonder how many of you have been told, you're not smart enough. You're not strong enough. You don't have what it takes. I wonder how many of you have had a dream, but someone told you it was impossible. Let me tell you something. If the dream is in you, it's because God put it there. The world may doubt you, the world may mock you, but the world didn't create you. God did. And when God creates something, he does not make mistakes. You were fearfully and wonderfully made. You were designed for a purpose. You were crafted by the hands of the Almighty God. And the only thing standing between you and your destiny is your belief in yourself. What if Michael Jordan had quit after being cut from his high school team? What if David had run away from Goliath? What if Thomas Edison had believed his teacher and never tried again? The world would have never seen their greatness. But they kept going, they kept pushing, because they believed in the person God made them to be. And that's what I want to tell you today. Believe in you. When people laugh, believe in you. When people say you're not good enough, believe in you. When life knocks you down, believe in you. Because no matter who doubts you, God believes in you. And if God believes in you, then that's all you need. Have you ever felt like you weren't enough? Like no matter how hard you tried, it was never good enough for the world? Maybe you've worked tirelessly, given your best effort, but still the world looked at you and said, you don't measure up. Maybe you've experienced rejection, where someone told you, you're not smart enough. talented enough, strong enough. Maybe you've compared yourself to others and thought, I'll never be as good as them. But I came here today to tell you something that will change your life. The world may say you're not enough, but God says you are chosen. Think about that for a moment. The world may label you as ordinary, but God has already declared you extraordinary. The world may reject you, but God has already accepted you. The world may push you aside, but God has already set you apart for something greater. Look at the life of Moses. When God called Moses to lead his people out of Egypt, what was Moses' first response? I can't do this. I'm not good enough. He told God, I don't speak well. I'm not a leader. I'm just a shepherd. The world had told Moses he wasn't enough, and he started to believe it. But God didn't see Moses as just a shepherd. God saw a deliverer. The world said, you're not a leader. God said, you are chosen. The world said, you're not qualified. God said, I will qualify you. And with God's power, Moses went on to do what no one thought he could do. He led an entire nation to freedom. Maybe today you feel like Moses. Maybe you feel like you don't have what it takes. Maybe people have told you you're not smart enough, not talented enough, not important enough. Maybe you believe those lies. But I'm here to tell you, God does not make mistakes. You were created for a reason. You were chosen for a purpose. You are enough because God is enough. Look at David. He was just a young shepherd boy. When the prophet Samuel came looking for the next king of Israel, David's own father didn't even invite him into the house. Imagine that, your own father thinking you're not worthy. David's brothers were strong. They were warriors. They looked like kings. But God said, I don't look at the outward appearance. I look at the heart. The world said, David, you're just a boy. God said, David, you are a king. The world said, you're not strong enough. God said, with me you will defeat giants. And when David stood before Goliath, the world laughed at him. Goliath mocked him. But David didn't listen to the world. He listened to God. He picked up a stone, took one shot, and brought the giant down. Maybe today you are facing your own giants: fear, doubt, rejection, failure. Maybe people have told you, you'll never make it. You're not good enough. But listen to me. You don't have to be enough by the world's standards, because God is more than enough. God doesn't choose people based on how the world sees them. He chooses based on what He has placed inside of them. Think about Oprah Winfrey. Did you know she was told early in her career that she wasn't good enough for television, that she didn't have what it takes? If Oprah had listened to the world, she would have quit. But she believed she was meant for more, and today she is one of the most influential people in the world. Or take J.K. Rowling, the author of Harry Potter. She was a single mother, struggling financially, rejected by publisher after publisher. People told her, your story isn't good enough, but she didn't quit. She kept believing. And today her books have sold over 500 million copies. If the world had its way, these people would have given up, but they knew something. Their value was not defined by rejection, and neither is yours. Maybe you've been turned down for a job. Maybe someone you loved walked away from you. Maybe you've been told you're not talented enough, not attractive enough, not successful enough. But what the world says does not matter. The only thing that matters is what God says. And God says you are chosen. You are chosen for a purpose. You are chosen to rise above your failures. You are chosen to overcome. Isaiah 41:10 says, fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. I will help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. That means even when the world tries to push you down, God is lifting you up. Even when the world says you're not enough, God says you are more than enough. And the most beautiful thing, God does not make mistakes. If you are here, if you are breathing, it is because God has a plan for your life. So today I want you to stop believing the lies. Stop listening to the voices that say you're not enough, because you are exactly who God created you to be. You don't need the world's approval when you already have God's calling. You don't need the world to validate you when God Himself has chosen you. You don't need to prove yourself to anyone, because in God's eyes, you are already enough. The next time someone tells you you're not good enough, hold your head up high and say, I am chosen by God. The next time you face rejection, remind yourself, God's plan for my life is bigger than this setback. The next time you feel like giving up, remember, the world may tell you you're not enough, but God says you are chosen. Have you ever felt trapped by your past? Have you ever made a mistake so big that you thought you could never move beyond it? Maybe you've done things you regret, or maybe life has thrown you into situations that make you feel like you'll never break free. The world loves to remind you of your past. People will label you by your worst moments. They will say, you'll never change. This is who you are. But I came to tell you today, your past does not define your future. Think about a caterpillar. It crawls on the ground, slow and struggling, limited in where it can go. If you looked at it, you might think this is all it will ever be. But inside that caterpillar is something greater. One day it wraps itself in a cocoon, and the world may look at it and think it's over. There's nothing left. But then something incredible happens. That same creature that once crawled breaks free from its cocoon and begins to fly. The world called it a worm, but God called it a butterfly. The same is true for you. The world may look at your past and try to define you by it, but God sees the transformation inside of you. Think about the story of Paul in the Bible. Before he became the great apostle, Paul was known as Saul, a man who persecuted Christians. He was feared. He was ruthless. People knew him as the enemy of God's people. If the world had its way, that's all Paul would have ever been. But God had a different plan. One day on the road to Damascus, Saul had an encounter with Jesus that changed everything. The same man who once hunted Christians became one of the greatest preachers of the gospel. He wrote most of the New Testament. He spread the message of Christ to the world. If Paul had been defined by his past, we wouldn't have his powerful words today. But God did not define him by his past. He defined him by his future. Maybe today you feel like your past is too dark. Maybe you feel like you've made too many mistakes, like there's no way God could use someone like you. But let me tell you something. God specializes in using people with a past. Look at Moses. He killed a man and ran away in shame. But God called him to lead his people. Look at David. He messed up badly. He committed sins that should have ruined him. But God still called him a man after my own heart. Look at Rahab. She was a prostitute someone society had given up on. But God used her to be part of the lineage of Jesus Christ. If God could use them, He can use you. Think about Oprah Winfrey. She was born into poverty. She suffered abuse. She faced rejection. By all accounts, her past should have destroyed her, but she refused to let it define her. She worked hard, she believed in herself, and today she is one of the most influential women in the world. Or take Steve Jobs. He was once fired from the very company he created. Imagine that, being kicked out of your own success. Many people would have given up, but he didn't. He took his failure, learned from it, and came back stronger than ever. And today, Apple is one of the most successful companies in history. Your past is not your prison. Your past is your classroom. It is not there to chain you. It is there to teach you. Maybe you've made mistakes. Maybe you've failed. Maybe people have given up on you. But hear me when I say, God has not given up on you. He is not looking at your past to determine your future. He is looking at His plan for you, and His plan is bigger than your past mistakes. His purpose is greater than your failures. His love is deeper than your regrets. Isaiah 43:18 says, "Forget the former things. Do not dwell on the past. See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it?" That means God is not dwelling on your past, so why should you? The enemy wants to remind you of your past so you'll feel unworthy of your future. He wants to keep you trapped in shame, guilt, and regret. But Jesus came to set you free when He died on the cross. He didn't just pay for your sins. He broke the chains of your past. When He rose from the grave, He didn't just conquer death. He gave you the power to rise above your past. You are not your past mistakes. You are not your failures. You are not what the world says you are. You are who God says you are. And He says you are redeemed. He says you are chosen. He says you are made new. So today I want you to make a decision. Stop letting your past define you. If you need to ask for forgiveness, ask for it. If you need to let go of something, let it go. But whatever you do, don't let yesterday steal your tomorrow. Your best days are not behind you, they are ahead of you. The next time someone tries to remind you of your past, remind them of your God. The next time the enemy whispers, "You're not good enough," say, "I am chosen by God." The next time you feel like giving up, stand tall and declare, "My past does not define my future, because no matter where you've been, God is leading you to something greater." Throughout history, the world has doubted, dismissed, and underestimated some of the greatest minds and talents. Society has a way of putting limits on people, saying, "You're not smart enough, not talented enough, not strong enough." But time and time again, those who changed the world were the ones who refused to listen to doubt. They chose to believe in themselves, even when no one else did. Think about Albert Einstein. Today, his name is synonymous with genius. But did you know that as a child, Einstein struggled in school? His teachers thought he was slow, that he would never amount to anything. He didn't speak fluently until he was about 4 years old. His teachers even called him mentally slow and unteachable. Imagine that. The man who would later develop the theory of relativity, who would transform the way we understand time and space, was once labeled as someone who would never succeed academically. But Einstein didn't let those opinions define him. He believed in himself. He continued to ask questions, to push boundaries, to think differently, and because of that, he revolutionized science. If he had listened to his critics, if he had given up, the world might never have known one of the greatest scientific minds in history. Now, let's talk about Michael Jordan. When we think of basketball greatness, his name is always at the top. He is considered one of the greatest athletes of all time. But did you know that as a young man, Michael Jordan was cut from his high school basketball team? Imagine that moment, standing there, looking at the list of players who made the team and not seeing your name. Most people would have taken that as a sign to quit. Most would have thought, maybe basketball just isn't for me. But not Michael Jordan. Instead of giving up, he used that failure as motivation. He practiced harder than ever before. He spent countless hours perfecting his game, proving not just to the coach, but to himself that he had what it took. And the rest is history. Jordan went on to win 6 NBA championships, 5 MVP awards, and became an icon for generations to come. The lesson? Failure is not the end. It's just the beginning of your success story. The people who doubt you today may one day look up to you in admiration. Now, let's go even further back in history to a man who faced some of the greatest doubts and hardships, Abraham Lincoln. Today, we know Lincoln is one of the greatest presidents in American history. He led the country through one of its darkest times, the Civil War, and fought to end slavery. But before he became that leader, Lincoln faced countless failures. He lost multiple elections. He failed in business. He suffered personal tragedies. He had every reason to quit. At one point, he even suffered from deep depression, struggling with self-doubt. People told him he wasn't good enough, that he should give up politics. But Lincoln refused to be defined by his failures. He kept going. He kept believing in himself. And because of that, he went on to change the course of history. Now, what do Einstein, Jordan, and Lincoln all have in common? They were doubted. They failed. They struggled. But they didn't let those moments define them. Instead, they used them as stepping stones to greatness. Maybe today you're facing doubt. Maybe people have told you that you're not good enough, not smart enough, not talented enough. Maybe you've faced rejection, and you're wondering if you should just give up. But let me tell you something. The only person who can truly define your future is you. You don't have to be the smartest person in the room. You don't have to be the most talented. What you need is belief. A belief in yourself, in your dreams, in the possibility that you were meant for something greater. Because every great person in history started somewhere. Every champion was once a beginner. Every success story began with a moment of doubt, but the difference was they didn't let doubt win. Think about Thomas Edison. Before he invented the light bulb, he failed over 1,000 times. Imagine failing that many times. People would have laughed at him, told him to stop wasting his time. But when someone asked him how it felt to fail so many times, Edison simply said, "I have not failed. I have just found 1,000 ways that won't work." That is the mindset of a champion. What if Michael Jordan had quit after being cut from his team? What if Einstein had believed his teachers and given up on learning? What if Lincoln had let his failures stop him from leading a nation? The world would be a very different place. And now I want you to ask yourself, what if you are next? What if your struggles right now are just preparing you for something greater? What if the rejection you faced is simply part of your journey to success? What if you are meant to inspire, to lead, to create, to make a difference? Because here's the truth. The only way to fail is to stop trying. The people who make history are not the ones who never fail. They are the ones who never quit. So today, I want you to make a decision. No matter who doubts you, no matter how many times you fall, choose to believe in yourself. Because the ones who believe, despite the doubts, are the ones who change the world. Failure, it's a word that can bring fear into the hearts of even the strongest people. It's a word that carries weight, disappointment, and sometimes even shame. But what if I told you that failure is not your enemy? What if I told you that failure is not the end of your story, but simply part of the journey? Think about a child learning to walk. When a baby takes their first steps, they don't get it right the first time. They stumble, they fall, sometimes they even cry. But do they give up? No. They get back up, try again, and eventually, step by step, they learn to walk. Not because they never fell, but because they refuse to let falling stop them. That same principle applies to life. You will fall, you will fail, you will make mistakes. But failure is not a dead end. It is a lesson, a stepping stone, a necessary part of growth. Let's look at some of the greatest success stories in history. Thomas Edison, the man who gave us the electric light bulb, failed over 1,000 times before he got it right. Imagine that. Over 1,000 attempts, and each time he could have said, "This isn't working, I should stop." But he didn't. When someone asked him about his failures, Edison replied, "I have not failed. I've just found 1,000 ways that won't work." That is the mindset of someone who understands that failure is part of the journey. Or take Walt Disney. Today, his name is known all over the world, a symbol of creativity, success, and dreams coming true. But did you know that early in his career, Walt Disney was fired from a job because his boss told him he lacked imagination? Imagine that. The man who built an empire of imagination and storytelling was once told he wasn't creative enough, but he didn't let failure define him. He kept going. And today his legacy lives on in the hearts of millions. And then there's Michael Jordan, one of the greatest basketball players of all time. But before he became a legend, he was cut from his high school basketball team. He could have quit. He could have believed that failure meant he wasn't good enough. But instead, he used that failure as motivation. He practiced harder, worked longer, and became one of the greatest athletes in history. He once said, "I have missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I have lost almost 300 games. I have been trusted to take the game-winning shot 26 times and missed. I have failed over and over and over again in my life, and that is why I succeed." You see, the difference between those who succeed and those who give up is not that they never failed, it's that they refuse to let failure stop them. Maybe today you feel like a failure. Maybe you've started something and it didn't go the way you planned. Maybe you've tried and tried, but things just don't seem to be working out. But let me remind you, failure is not a period, it's a comma. It's not the end of your story. It's just a chapter. Think about the story of Abraham Lincoln. Before becoming one of the greatest presidents in history, he faced repeated failures. He lost multiple elections. He failed in business. He suffered personal losses. But every failure shaped him into the leader he was meant to be. And when his moment came, he was ready, not because he had never failed, but because he had learned from every failure along the way. Failure is a teacher. It teaches you resilience. It teaches you strength. It teaches you what doesn't work, so that you can find what does. Imagine if every great person who ever failed had given up. Imagine if Einstein had believed he wasn't smart enough. Imagine if Oprah Winfrey had stopped after being told she wasn't good for television. Imagine if J.K. Rowling had quit writing after being rejected by multiple publishers. The world would have missed out on some of its greatest talents. And now, I want you to think about yourself. Maybe you've faced rejection. Maybe you've tried and failed. Maybe you've started something only to see it fall apart. But what if this failure is just part of your journey? What if it's shaping you, preparing you for something greater? Because here's the truth. Your failures do not define you. Your response to them does. So, what will you do? Will you let failure break you, or will you let it build you? The most successful people in life are not the ones who never failed. They are the ones who refuse to stay down. They are the ones who saw failure not as a defeat, but as a lesson, as a stepping stone, as a necessary part of their journey. And you can do the same. So the next time you fall, don't stay down. The next time you fail, don't give up. Learn from it, grow from it, and keep going. Because one day you'll look back and realize that every failure wasn't a setback, it was a setup for something greater. Failure is not the end, it's just part of the journey. And if you keep moving forward, your story is far from over. There is something powerful about faith. Faith that goes beyond human understanding, beyond what you can see, beyond what you can prove. Faith is what gives people the strength to keep going when everything around them says to quit. It is what lifts people up when they feel like they are at their lowest. And above all, faith in God is what gives you the power to believe in yourself, even when the world tries to tell you otherwise. So many people struggle with self-doubt. They feel unworthy, incapable, or simply not enough. They look in the mirror and see their flaws rather than their potential. They compare themselves to others and think, I could never be like them. I could never achieve that. I could never be great. But let me tell you something. God does not make mistakes. You were created with a purpose. You were designed with intention. You were shaped by the hands of a loving Creator who sees you not as the world sees you, but as His masterpiece. And when you put your faith in Him, He fills you with the confidence, strength, and courage to see yourself the way He sees you. Look at the story of Moses. When God called him to lead the Israelites out of Egypt, Moses didn't believe he was capable. He told God, who am I that I should go to Pharaoh? He even argued that he wasn't a good speaker, that he wasn't the right man for the job. But God didn't choose Moses because of his own abilities. God chose him because He knew that with faith, Moses could do the impossible. And what happened? A man who once doubted himself ended up leading an entire nation to freedom. Not because of his strength, but because of his faith in God, and that faith gave him the power to believe in himself even when he felt unqualified. Maybe you feel like Moses. Maybe you've been telling yourself, I'm not smart enough, I'm not talented enough, I'm not strong enough. Maybe you've been letting fear and doubt keep you from stepping into the life you were meant to live. But let me remind you, when God is with you, you are more than enough. His strength is made perfect in your weakness. Think about David, a young shepherd boy, standing before a giant named Goliath. Everyone around him doubted him. The soldiers, the king, even his own brothers, they told him he was too young, too small, too inexperienced. But David had something they didn't: faith. He knew that God was with him, and that gave him the confidence to face the impossible. With just a slingshot and a handful of stones, he defeated the giant that everyone else was too afraid to face. What giants are you facing today? Maybe it's fear. Maybe it's failure. Maybe it's insecurity. Maybe it's the voices of people who have told you that you're not good enough. But just like David, you don't need to be the strongest, the biggest, or the most qualified. You just need faith, because faith in God gives you the power to believe in yourself, even when the world tells you not to. Look at Peter. When Jesus called him to walk on water, Peter stepped out of the boat. As long as he kept his eyes on Jesus, he walked on water. But the moment he let fear creep in, the moment he started doubting himself, he began to sink. That is what happens when we take our eyes off God. Doubt takes over, fear takes over, but when our faith is strong, we can do things we never thought possible. There are people in this world who seem to have all the talent, all the skills, all the confidence, but talent without faith will only take you so far. Skills without belief will only last so long. Confidence that is based on external things, like wealth, status, or popularity, can be shaken in an instant. But when your confidence is built on faith in God, it is unshakable, because you're no longer relying on your own strength. You are relying on His. Faith is what pushes you to keep going when the road gets tough. It is what allows you to believe that there is something greater ahead, even when you can't see it yet. It is what helps you rise after every fall, knowing that failure is not the end. It's just part of the journey. Look at the people who have changed the world: leaders, inventors, dreamers. Many of them faced rejection, hardship, and failure. But the ones who made it through were the ones who believed in something greater than themselves. Maybe today you feel like giving up. Maybe the weight of your circumstances is too heavy. Maybe you've been listening to the wrong voices, voices of doubt, voices of fear, voices that say you'll never make it. But let me tell you this: God believes in you. And if He believes in you, you should believe in yourself too. Because faith is not just about believing in God, it's about believing that He created you for a reason. It's about believing that He has placed something special inside of you, something no one else can bring to the world. So stop doubting yourself. Stop playing small. Stop letting fear hold you back. You are capable. You are chosen. You are enough. Not because of your own strength, but because of the God who lives within you. Faith in God is what gives you the power to look at your challenges and say, I will not be defeated. Faith is what helps you rise when you fall, keep going when it's hard, and believe in yourself even when no one else does. So today, I challenge you, walk in faith. Believe that you were made for something great. Believe that you are stronger than your struggles. Believe that with God, all things are possible. And when you start walking in that faith, you will begin to see just how powerful you truly are. Have you ever looked up at the night sky and wondered about the vastness of the universe? The billions of stars, the endless galaxies, the sheer magnitude of creation, and yet in all of that, there is only one you. Out of the billions of people who have ever lived, there has never been, nor will there ever be, another person exactly like you. You are not an accident. You are not here by mistake. You were created with intention. You were created with purpose. It's easy to feel insignificant in a world that constantly tries to define your worth by achievements, status, or popularity. Maybe you've been told that you're not special, that you don't matter, that your life has no real meaning. Maybe you've even told yourself those things. But let me tell you this, God does not make mistakes. If you are here, if you have breath in your lungs, then there is a reason for your existence. Think about an artist creating a masterpiece. Every brushstroke is intentional. Every color, every detail is placed with purpose. No part of the painting is random. Now imagine that you are that masterpiece handcrafted by God, designed uniquely with thought and care. Just as a painter would never waste time on a meaningless work of art, God did not create you without a reason. You were formed by His hands with love and for a purpose far greater than you can imagine. Look at nature. Every tree, every river, every sunrise has a purpose. The sun rises each morning to bring light. The rain falls to nourish the earth. The flowers bloom in their season. If even the smallest creatures, the birds, the insects, the fish in the sea, have a purpose, how much more do you? Yet so many people wander through life believing they have no meaning. They feel lost, overlooked, and forgotten. But the truth is, you are seen, you are known, you are deeply valued by the one who created you. Even when life feels chaotic, even when things don't make sense, even when you question why you are here, God sees the full picture. He knows the plans He has for you, and they are greater than you can imagine. Consider the story of Joseph in the Bible. He was sold into slavery by his own brothers, falsely accused, thrown into prison, and forgotten. He could have believed his life had no meaning, that his suffering was pointless. But what he couldn't see in those moments was that God was working behind the scenes. Every trial, every hardship, every moment of pain was preparing him for something greater. And in the end, the very thing that seemed like his downfall became the doorway to his destiny. He rose to power and saved countless lives. Maybe today you feel like Joseph. Maybe you're facing difficulties that make you question your worth. Maybe you feel stuck, lost, or like your life isn't going the way it should. But your struggles do not define you. Your hardships are not the end of your story. What you see as random, God sees as preparation. What you see as broken, God sees as a masterpiece in the making. Think about the people who have changed the world. Scientists, inventors, leaders. Many of them faced rejection, failure, and doubt, but they didn't let those things define them. Instead, they pressed on because deep inside they knew they had a purpose. And the same is true for you. Your life is not meaningless. You were placed here at this time in this place for a reason. Maybe your purpose is to inspire others, to create something beautiful, to heal, to teach, to love. Maybe you haven't discovered it yet, but that doesn't mean it's not there. Just because you don't see the full picture doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Imagine a puzzle with thousands of pieces. If you look at just one piece, it might seem random, confusing, even out of place. But when all the pieces come together, they form a breathtaking image. Your life is like that puzzle. Every moment, every experience, every challenge is a piece. And though you may not see the full picture yet, God does. He is putting everything together in ways you cannot imagine. Maybe you've made mistakes. Maybe you've been told you're not enough. Maybe life has tried to convince you that you are just another person passing through, unnoticed and unimportant. But that is a lie. You were created with purpose. Every part of you, your personality, your talents, your dreams, was placed inside you for a reason, and there is something that only you can bring to this world. If you've ever felt like giving up, like your life doesn't matter, I want you to hear this. You are here for a reason. Your story is still being written. Your best days are not behind you. You were not meant to simply exist. You were meant to live with purpose, passion, and meaning. So stop believing the lies that say you are insignificant. Stop doubting yourself. Stop thinking that your life is an accident. Because the truth is, you are loved. You are chosen. You are needed. There is a calling on your life that no one else can fulfill. There is a reason for your existence, and the world needs what only you can offer. No matter what you've been through, no matter what mistakes you've made, no matter how lost you feel, you were created for a purpose. You are not an accident, and your story is far from over. There is something incredibly powerful about belief, especially self-belief. It is the invisible force that separates those who achieve greatness from those who let their dreams slip away. It is what turns ordinary people into extraordinary leaders, visionaries, and history makers. And it is what allows you to step into the destiny that has been waiting for you all along. Too often, people let doubt keep them from stepping into the fullness of their potential. They think, I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I don't have what it takes. And because they believe these lies, they live small lives, never reaching for the greatness that was placed inside them from the very beginning. But let me tell you something. When you believe in yourself, you activate something powerful within you. You step into a new reality, one where your dreams are possible, your voice matters, and your life has purpose. Think about a little child learning to walk. At first they stumble, they fall down, they may even cry, but do they stop trying? No. They get back up, they try again, and eventually they take that first step, then another, and before you know it, they are running. But what if that child had believed, I'll never walk? I'm just not meant for this? They would never experience the joy of running free. The same is true for you. There will be moments when you fall. There will be times when you question yourself. But if you stop trying, if you let doubt win, you will never step into the destiny that is waiting for you. You were made for more. You were created for something greater, and the moment you start believing that, your whole life begins to change. Look at history. The world's greatest leaders, inventors, and visionaries all had one thing in common. They believed in themselves when no one else did. Take Thomas Edison. He failed thousands of times while trying to invent the light bulb. People told him to give up. But he believed in himself, and because of that belief, the world was changed forever. Think about Michael Jordan. He was cut from his high school basketball team. He could have quit right there. He could have believed the voices that said he wasn't good enough. But instead he believed in himself. And that belief carried him to become one of the greatest athletes of all time. Or consider Oprah Winfrey. She was told early in her career that she wasn't fit for television. Can you imagine if she had believed that? Can you imagine if she had quit because someone else didn't see her potential? But she believed in herself. And today, she is one of the most influential women in the world. You see, destiny is not something that just happens. It is something that you must step into. It requires courage, faith, and a deep belief in yourself, even when the world tries to tell you otherwise. Maybe you've faced rejection. Maybe you've been told you're not good enough. Maybe you've been afraid to chase your dreams because you don't think you have what it takes. But let me ask you this. What if you're wrong? What if the only thing standing between you and your destiny is your own belief? The truth is, you have everything you need inside of you right now. The gifts, the talent, the strength, it's all there. But if you don't believe in yourself, none of it will ever be fully realized. Think of a seed. A seed has everything inside of it to grow into a mighty tree. But if it stays buried, afraid to break through the soil, it will never fulfill its purpose. You are that seed. There is greatness inside of you. There is potential beyond what you can imagine. But it takes belief to grow. It takes faith to push through. Some of the most successful people in the world were not the most talented, they were not the most privileged, but they believed in themselves. And that belief is what made the difference. Now you might be thinking, but what if I fail? Let me tell you something. Failure is not the opposite of success. It is part of success. Every great person who has ever achieved anything has failed along the way. The difference is they didn't let failure define them. They didn't stop believing in themselves just because things got hard. So what about you? Will you let fear hold you back? Or will you take that step forward? Will you let self-doubt keep you small? Or will you start believing in the destiny that is waiting for you? Because here's the truth. Your destiny is bigger than your fear. Your purpose is greater than your doubt. And when you believe in yourself, something shifts. You start walking with confidence. You start dreaming bigger. You start stepping into opportunities that once seemed impossible. So today I challenge you, stop playing small. Stop doubting yourself. Stop waiting for permission to step into your calling. Believe that you are capable. Believe that you are worthy. Believe that you were created for a reason. Because when you believe in yourself, you don't just change your own life, you step into the destiny that was always meant to be yours. Have you ever stopped to consider the power of your own thoughts? The words you speak, the beliefs you hold, the things you constantly tell yourself, they are shaping your future even as you read this. Your life is moving in the direction of your most dominant thoughts. If you believe you are capable, you will rise. If you believe you are destined to fail, you will struggle. What you think and what you speak have power, more power than you may even realize. Look at the most successful, joyful, and fulfilled people in the world. They didn't get there by accident. It wasn't just luck. If you listen to them, you'll notice a pattern. They think and speak differently. When challenges come, they don't dwell on defeat. They don't say, I'll never make it. Instead, they say, this is just a setback. I will overcome it. They don't say, I'm not good enough. Instead, they say, I am learning, I am growing, and I am getting better every day. On the other hand, look at people who always seem stuck, always struggling, never moving forward. Listen to how they speak. They say things like, nothing ever works out for me. I'll never get ahead. I'm just unlucky. And what happens? Their life continues to reflect exactly what they believe. The Bible says in Proverbs 18:21, death and life are in the power of the tongue. That means that your words are either working for you or against you. You are either speaking life over yourself or you are speaking defeat. You may not see the effects immediately, but over time, your words shape your reality. Think about planting a garden. If you plant good seeds, water them, and care for them, they will grow into something beautiful. But if you plant weeds, or if you don't take care of the soil, the garden will be overrun with thorns and thistles. Your mind is the same way. If you plant thoughts of faith, hope, and belief, your future will reflect those things. But if you fill your mind with negativity, fear, and doubt, your life will follow in that direction. Let me ask you this. What kind of words are you speaking over your own life? Are you constantly saying, I'm too old, I'm too young, I'm not smart enough, I don't have what it takes? Or are you saying, I am strong, I am capable, I am walking into my destiny, and I will not be stopped? There is a story about two wolves that an old Cherokee chief once told his grandson. He said, there are two wolves inside every person. One wolf is full of fear, doubt, and negativity. The other is full of faith, strength, and confidence. These two wolves are always fighting. The grandson asked, which wolf wins? And the wise old man answered, the one you feed. Right now in your mind there is a battle between faith and fear, between belief and doubt. Which one are you feeding? Every time you think, I can't do it, you are feeding the wrong wolf. Every time you say, I am not good enough, you are making it stronger. But every time you speak faith, every time you say, I was created for a purpose, I am blessed, I will succeed, you are feeding the right wolf. And over time, that belief will grow so strong that nothing will be able to shake it. Think about some of the most inspiring people in history. They didn't have it easy. They faced setbacks, hardships, and rejection, but they refused to let negative thoughts control them. Instead, they spoke faith over their own lives. Look at Nelson Mandela. He spent 27 years in prison, but he never said, this is the end for me. Instead, he spoke of freedom, justice, and a better future, and his words became reality. Think about Thomas Edison. He failed over 1,000 times before he successfully invented the light bulb. But instead of saying, I'm a failure, he said, I have not failed. I have just found 1,000 ways that won't work. And because of that mindset, he changed the world. What about you? What kind of future are you shaping with your thoughts and words? Are you speaking defeat over yourself, or are you speaking victory? If you've been filling your mind with doubt and negativity, today is the day to change. Start declaring words of faith over your life. Wake up every morning and say, I am strong, I am loved, I am walking in my purpose, I have everything I need to succeed. Even if you don't feel it at first, say it anyway, because the more you speak it, the more you will start to believe it. And the more you believe it, the more your life will begin to reflect it. It won't happen overnight. Just like a seed takes time to grow, your thoughts and words will take time to shape your future. But if you stay consistent, if you keep feeding the right wolf, if you keep speaking words of faith, then one day you will wake up and realize you have stepped into the life you once only dreamed of. So I challenge you, change the way you speak. Change the way you think. Speak words of faith, hope, and victory over yourself. Because when you do, you are not just changing your mindset, you are shaping your destiny. Belief is the key that unlocks the doors to your destiny. It is the foundation upon which all success, growth, and achievement are built. You can have talent, you can have opportunities, you can even have the right people around you, but if you don't believe in yourself, none of that will matter. You will never step into the fullness of what God has prepared for you if you keep doubting your ability, your worth, and your purpose. Too many people live their lives trapped in their own insecurities. They look at others and think they are more talented, they are more gifted, they are smarter, they are more qualified. And because they don't see themselves as good enough, they never even try. They never take the step of faith that could change their lives. They stay in the same place year after year, watching others move forward while they remain stuck. But let me tell you something. God did not create you to live small. He did not put you on this earth to hide in the shadows, to settle for less, or to be ruled by fear. You were created with a purpose. There are things that only you can do, dreams that only you can fulfill, and places that only you can reach. But if you don't believe in yourself, you will never step into that calling. You will never reach what God has for you. Think about the story of Moses when God called him to lead the Israelites out of Egypt. What was his first response? Self-doubt. He said, "Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh?" He told God, "I am slow of speech and tongue." He doubted himself so much that he almost missed the incredible destiny that God had planned for him. But here's the thing. God already knew his weaknesses. God already knew his limitations, and he called him anyway. The same is true for you. God knows every flaw, every mistake, every insecurity you carry, and yet he still calls you. He still has a purpose for your life. But if you don't believe in yourself, you will never take the first step. You will never rise up and claim the destiny that is waiting for you. Think about David. When the prophet Samuel came to anoint the next king of Israel, David wasn't even considered. His own family didn't believe in him, but God did. And when David believed in himself, when he stepped onto the battlefield with nothing but a slingshot and faith, he defeated Goliath and changed history. Maybe you feel like David, overlooked, underestimated, not seen. Maybe you've been told that you're not good enough, that you don't have what it takes, that you should just stay where you are and not dream too big. But God is not limited by human opinions. He does not see you the way the world sees you. He sees what's inside of you, the strength, the potential, the courage, and he is calling you to rise up. But here's the truth. Even God's plan for your life requires your belief. God can open doors, but you have to walk through them. He can give you opportunities, but you have to step forward and take them. He can place the dream in your heart, but you have to believe that you are capable of making it happen. Imagine a person who is given a key to a mansion filled with everything they could ever need: blessings, success, joy, fulfillment. The door is unlocked, the way is clear, but they refuse to walk inside. They stand outside looking at the door saying, "I don't think I belong here. I'm not worthy of this. What if I fail? What if I'm not good enough?" And because they never take that step, they never experience the incredible life that was waiting for them. That is what happens when you don't believe in yourself. God has so much more for you than where you are right now. But if you don't take the step, if you don't push past your doubt, you will never receive it. Look at people like Oprah Winfrey, Michael Jordan, and Steve Jobs. Each of them faced rejection, failure, and setbacks. Oprah was told she wasn't fit for television. Michael Jordan was cut from his high school basketball team. Steve Jobs was fired from the very company he created. But they didn't let doubt win. They believed in themselves, and because of that belief, they reached the incredible destinies that were meant for them. You might be facing struggles right now. Maybe you've been rejected. Maybe you've failed before. Maybe you feel like giving up. But let me tell you something. Failure is not the end unless you stop believing. The only difference between people who succeed and those who don't is that successful people keep going. They keep believing. They keep pushing forward even when things get tough. So let me ask you, what dream has God placed in your heart? What calling have you been running from because you don't think you're good enough? Maybe it's starting a business. Maybe it's going back to school. Maybe it's writing that book, stepping into that leadership role, or chasing a dream that seems impossible. Whatever it is, you have everything you need inside of you. But if you don't believe in yourself, you will never see it come to life. Starting today, I want you to shift your mindset. I want you to stop saying, I'm not good enough, and start saying, I am capable, I am chosen, I am stepping into my destiny. I want you to wake up every morning and declare, God has great things for me, and I will not let fear or doubt hold me back. Because when you believe in yourself, when you take that step of faith, doors will begin to open. Opportunities will come. Your future will unfold in ways you never imagined. God has something amazing planned for you. But the question is, do you believe it?